Well, here we are. I am behind the Taubman Museum of Art here in Roanoke, Virginia, and I'm about to jump inside and take part in the judging of some, I'm sure, wonderful and impressive high school metal art sculptures. And again, I'm honored to be here and I'm excited for it. So let's go in and take a look. I'm going to film as much as possible and bring you guys with me. Check it out. So rather quickly, sitting down with Steve and Dave, we got distracted talking about a abstract art project that Dave wants to accomplish. Dave's a funny guy because he has a Bachelor of Fine Arts, but then was in sales for Metabo and other power tools for years and years and years. So just now at this point in his life, he wants to get back into creating art and metal sculpture. So instead of focusing on our important judging duties, we've been discussing Dave's interesting metal sculpture. But time to get serious. Well, me and the other judges just got done interviewing 15 different welding students. And we're very thorough, by the way. But 15 students in a row took a lot of time. How long were we sitting in the chairs?
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. Look at us.
Impressive.
Very, very, I'm telling you, the Southwest Virginia has a really impressive crop of welding students. Some that want to keep going after school, most of them want to keep going after school. And I think Altech is going to have a lot of new hires coming out. But now that we've done the interview portion, we need to walk around and actually evaluate the sculptures. So this part is going to take a little while. I'm going to show you guys all the sculptures first, and then I'm going to go back and stare at them in more detail. Walking through the gallery and checking out some of the sculptures was pretty humbling. These high school kids have some serious talent. You know, only half of the kids were even enrolled in a formal welding class. Some of the kids that accepted the contest criteria and chose to submit some work weren't even in class or at school to be a welder. They were art students, and they got the local welding class teacher to show them how to use a welder enough so that they could stick some stuff together and create a sculpture. So it was cool to see that art is sort of this overarching concept. You know, art bridges many different media and skill sets and backgrounds. But at the same time, there were some really impressive methodologies used, and a lot of the kids use multiple processes, MIG and TIG and stick. Some kids were returning to the contest. Some kids had just submitted for the first time. Super cool to see so much talent come from the next generation, because younger generations are so quickly dismissed by the older guys, right? Saying, oh, they don't have what it takes. These kids are just iPad kids and they're not willing to get dirty. Well, here we have, in just a small sample size, 15 kids that are willing to get dirty and learn a trade and really kick out some pretty impressive stuff. All the kids were from the Southwest Virginia area, and they're all high school kids, so ranging from, 14 to 18. I know I was welding at that age, but some of these kids made me look like I was standing still at that age. Really impressive to see some of the things they came up with. It was really fun to take a minute outside of talking to the kids and looking at the judging criteria and just go absorb the pieces as the art pieces that they are. Just kind of stare at it like you do with any art, and you kind of figure out what it's saying to you, how it makes you feel. And I let that wash over me as much as I could to help influence my decision, really, and just try to see if I could get the same feeling from the piece that the kids explained to us, the feeling they were trying to convey, just to see how close they got. And a lot of them were just really fun to look at. All of them were, really. This contest was really good because there's so many factors they're being judged on. You're not just being judged on, can you make a nice looking weld? There was one kid that made a sculpture whose welds were impeccable, better than some of my TIG welds. But as a sculpture, that's not all it's about. The sculpture, some of the ones that hit me the hardest were ones where maybe technically the kids had a subpar welding technique. But that's what was cool about this contest, is that it wasn't just about who can lay the nicest weld. It was truly an art sculpture contest with a side of welding, which I thought was really cool. Well, me and the two judges have spent probably 3 or 4 hours now going around and grading the sculptures and the books that will go with them. Now we have 15 papers we got to grade. Is this what it feels like to be a teacher? Yeah. God, it makes you wonder at a certain point, if you were the last few tests to get graded, maybe they were just giving you just tired of this. Here's a passing grade. Yeah, right. So our judging criteria was the following. We had a welding category, a cutting category, a design and creativity category, a notebook category where each student was required to submit a 2 to 3 inch binder with certain, verification letters from the school and photos and a story about their piece and all that stuff. And then an interview. So a big part of what we were judging them on was an interview we did with them. We interviewed each of the 15 kids as the 3 judges, and we were told to look at things like greeting and closing, eye contact, knowledge of the project, and that sort of thing. Professionalism, which was kind of interesting. That underscores the emphasis being placed on what you're going to be able to do after you get out of school. It was a really cool, well-rounded criteria to be judged on, I think. Well, grading ran late. They're kicking us out of the museum. We're going to go next door and have some dinner. But tomorrow we'll be back to enjoy them in their splendor with everyone, and I'll give you guys some beauty shots then. We got to get out of here. Security's about to kick us out.
Notebook.
This is the brains right here. This guy. Look at all this tabulating he's done.
Then they did an interview. So, and this is how we, and this is the weighting on it.
Well, look at the ragtag crew we got here. We got David. You're on the chairman, AWS. We got Steve. We got Dennis, president of American Welding Society. We got Dave, and we got me. We got this handsome gentleman. Amber. There we go.
District director.
We are here at the Taubman, about to do the reception for the AWS Metal Sculpture Art Show. And gentlemen, it's been a tough decision, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Yeah, it's been pretty impressive work.
A lot of work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some. The next generation have some hope restored in the next generation, I think, with this show. But people are milling around, checking everything out. Thanks for sponsoring this. Everybody for showing up. And look, they gave me a name tag. How about that? Official. So we had a really beautiful reception in the theater of the Taubman Museum, put on by ARC3 and the American Welding Society. Pretty incredible spread of food, and we got to hang out with the students and their families, and me and all the guys from ARC3 and the judges, and even my dad came by. Really special. They cranked it up a notch from last year. And then Dan Chenault, the son of David Chenault, who's one of the higher ups in the local AWS chapter, took the mic, and he was the MC for the night, and he was just setting the grounds, introducing everybody, telling us why we're all here. And at one point, I couldn't hear Dan very well, so you can see me sneak behind him and try to turn the volume up on the speaker, but it didn't really work. Dan did great. He had some points to hit and sponsors to thank, and he did that thing. Then we got to hear from Dennis Eck, and Dennis is the president of the American Welding Society. He's out of Houston, and he was in town for a few days to do what the president of the AWS does, which is go visit with welding schools and programs and different things and spread the gospel, if you will, of the AWS. And right now, the AWS is really pushing gap bridging between older generations and the newer generations of kids who are coming into the welding trade. Welding has always been this sort of stodgy old guy thing, right? And there's some stigma there that Dennis and the AWS is trying to undo when it comes to passing the torch from what my buddy Aaron Dykstra has called the silver tsunami, which is all the retirees leaving the trade. But if we have any hope of it continuing, they need to be able to hand their knowledge and their skills to someone who can run with it. And until we find a way to communicate, between 40 years of an age gap, then that's never going to happen. So this presentation that Dennis put on was basically about that. How do we reach the younger generations? How do they communicate? What do they find valuable in a job setting? And how do we pivot in order to meet them where they're at, with the ultimate goal of being able to pass welding on as a valuable trade and work together. So it was a really well done presentation. Dennis travels the country, the world really. He goes to Shanghai and Bangkok and all over the place. He's a perfect guy to be in a position that he's in, and really represents the field of welding very well. So this was a big segment of him doing that, working with the students. They had sort of a pre-arranged sort of skit, question and answer thing that they're doing. And then once we did that, we went into the prize presentation, which is me and the other two judges and the guys from Arc 3 got to read off our favorites and who got first to fifth in the People's Choice Award, and got to give away some pretty incredible prizes. The People's Choice Award got an ESOB welding package, which is pretty great. You can see it in the background of some of these. It's an ESOB Rebel welder and some other things. First place got a Fronius Transsteel 2200 MIG and TIG package, which is pretty insane. That's a $3,000 value, and Fronius welders are the top of the line. Second place got a $1,000 Arc 3 Gases scholarship payable to the school of their choice regardless of major. So that was really cool. Shout out to Arc 3 for doing that. Third place got a Lincoln Electric school pack, which was pretty rad. It had like a jacket, mask, gloves, tools, hammer, all sorts of stuff. Everything that you definitely want as a welder. Fourth place got a Miller Auto Darkening Weld helmet, which is rad because those are $300 to $400 in general. And fifth place got a Metabo 4.5-inch grinder, which is still a couple $100 package. So, there were a lot of prizes to win, and even the kids that didn't get top 5 definitely walked out. There was a goodie bag that Arc 3 put together there, so everybody left with something. Really cool night. All the kids were super appreciative. Everyone was pretty well engaged. When I was handed the mic, I tried to, no offense to anyone, but I tried to up the energy in the room a little bit. It was getting a little stale. Again, no offense to anybody involved, but being that the topic of the night was how to engage with young kids, I think I tried to be a little louder and be a little goofier and engage. And one of the tricks I've learned in public speaking is to acknowledge the awkwardness head on and just sort of go, hey, isn't it weird we're all here? Look at me, I'm talking in a microphone in front of people. How weird is that? Anyway, how are you guys doing? Sort of this like comedian self-deprecation, like diffusal method that I've come up with over the years. But I sort of just took the mic at one point and started getting involved. I was having fun handing out the prizes to all the kids and taking photos and videos and stuff. So first place, the grand prize winner, was Josh Patzel and Ben Kingery. Their work titled Morning Wood, which was the log suspended on twisted metal legs and axe handle feet. Pretty cool project. For the record, any of the kids could have chosen a partner. A group work was allowed. I thought the project that they did was really cool. There was a lot of work put into it. All the texturing on the log itself was just lines and lines of weld. They handed all of that stuff. So even though there were 2 people involved on this one, I think the work reflects it. I don't think either one of the guys was coasting off the other one. I think they both had a lot to do to make this project work, and it really turned out cool. Second place was Walker Johnson with Octavius. This was one of my personal favorites, the octopus. He made this by using a deflated football as a template for the head, which if you look at it now closely, you can definitely tell. And then he used triplets of round bar to bend the leg shapes, and then he would cap those round bar triangles with sheet metal and bending it around and welding it and grinding it to create a smooth 3-dimensional shape. So honestly, as an art piece, the octopus was one of my favorites. Just as a thing being displayed on a pedestal, it really caught my eye. I like that one a lot. Third place was Sterling White with the butterfly koi. Again, this was one of my favorites. Shout out to Sterling. Sterling actually lost his dad in the course of doing this project, and just an incredible kid, really awesome spirit, was incredible to talk to, and the sheer amount of work that went into making this fish was insane. He hand cut every single one of those scales and made a cool templating system to sort of pre-attach about 10 of them together in sections and then would bend and weld the entire fish. Everything was hand-cut and hand-shaped. Fourth place was Riley Flavas with her spider web. Again, one that I think this is the one I put my People's Choice token in for. Love that piece. I like the scale of it. I like the creativity with the spider itself being made from chain. I like the fact that it wasn't exactly made with a tape measure. It was sort of made with an eyeball, and just like everyone kind of knows what a spider web looks like, but she really just sort of started cutting pieces and sticking it all together. So I really like how that one turned out. And then fifth place was Adam Barr with his work titled Thelema. Adam really he was reaching for some abstract stuff here, and I think it was really cool what he was after. He said that this piece was inspired by his favorite song by a band. I'm sorry, I can't remember right now, but he was really, really proud of his TIG welding technique, as he should be. The level of TIG welding that Adam displayed in this piece was truly incredible. And I love the modern sort of cubic nature of the sculpture. Scale was a little small, and as far as an impactful piece of art, I think the place that he won was fairly appropriate, despite the amount of work that I know went into making this piece. Also, the kid was super professional and kind of ahead of his time. You could see him walking around before the judging was done, like shaking hands with all the judges and making eye contact, trying to win us over, like looking us in the eye and saying, "Yes, sir. How are you, sir?" As like a little 17-year-old kid. Kind of cool, man. The kid's gonna go far, and despite his technically perfect TIG welding, I think he wants to stay in the art world. So, pretty neat. And then the People's Choice Award was Luke Stubbs with Lucy the Guitar. I think that is well earned. The guitar was really cool to look at. One of my personal favorite ways to create metal art, which is create an outline and then fill that outline in with like gears and metal stuff. It's very similar to that ribbon I did on the giant helical sculpture that we did forever ago. That same methodology, which is just work, from outside in and fill things in. Yeah, that's an obvious People's Choice, I think. So, in my opinion, the judging was pretty fair. I think people won what they deserved, and it didn't seem like there was any backlash. So, there was a lot of pressure to, quote unquote, pass judgment onto kids in this environment, and I had to fight the imposter syndrome, going like, why am I here? Am I truly qualified to do this? But, it slowly started to remember all the things that I've done and all the fortunate opportunities I've had in the metal fabrication world. And I think if I'm being honest with myself, the work I get to do every day at Lift Arc is what these kids would absolutely love to find a career doing. So I know I'm in a position of fortune, and it felt really cool to kind of channel that back through these kids and how we looked at their work and got to talk to them and work it all out. So really, really stoked on this group of kids. They're all extremely talented, and I think they're all going to go very far, whether they choose to become a sort of traditional welder in like a production sort of environment or pursue a career in metal art. So, with today's gig economy, it's very easy to do something like that. Make an Etsy store, start posting on Instagram, carve out time to start practicing your craft, and just don't stop. Don't go away. Just keep doing it. And that's exactly what we told all these kids, which is just find your niche and stick there, but just keep showing up and keep working at it, and anything's possible. So shout out to the AWS, shout out to ARC3 and all the other sponsors. Thank you for having me down. It was a pleasure and an honor, and I wish all the kids and their parents the best. And if you need welding supplies, go to ARC3. What more can you say? Well, that concludes the 2023 AWS Metal Sculpture Art Show here at the Taubman Museum. Shout out to all the super talented students and all the schools in the area that pushed the program and allowed their kids to make sacrifices to be a part of it. I was super humbled to be asked to be a judge. It was a really hard thing to do, but really gratifying and a lot of fun, and some kids went home with some pretty incredible prizes. So I hope other art museums and other institutions do more of this type of thing. We need more welders from the young generations to step up, and when there's a fun excuse to get your welder out, like an art contest and this sort of thing, it's all rising tide lifts all ships. So thank you guys for watching. This was a little bit of an uncommon one, a little vlog style, but I wanted to share this part of the welding community with you guys because it's really important to me. So thanks again, and see you on the next one.